Okay, guys, it's time we have a real talk about this. It's been just going on for far too long. So let me tell you once and for all the truth. Nintendo does not care about Melee. Never has and never will. Once the GameCube is over, they could care less what happens to that game. If it ends up getting sold to like a bunch of different shops or whatever, they don't care about it. More importantly, Nintendo doesn't care about the Smash community, like as a whole. I know you guys think that because they've put on a couple tournaments and a couple events here and there that they sponsored and had a little prize pool for, maybe flew out some of your favorite competitors for. None of that was because they cared about the community. Those were always done because they cared about sales of their upcoming game. And that was just not them supporting a community or tournament scene, but that was just part of their marketing budget to sell you their new game. But the most important thing that I need you guys to get from this is that Nintendo doesn't care about you. So, if you guys are wondering what's going on here and what's been kind of like why everyone is saying like free melee or save Smash, or why that's been trending, and I guess my thoughts on it as like a longtime Smash Bros. Player and a big fan of Smash Bros, especially melee for years now. Um, First, let me I guess quickly explain what's going on, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts on everything. So, as you guys know, the virus that shall not be named has been basically ravaging all social gatherings across the world. Not just in the US or Japan, but literally everywhere. Some places you're forbidden from gathering from up to 10 people. Like you'll be fined, and in some places even sent to jail if you are in gatherings of larger than 10 people. So that makes it virtually impossible to have in-person tournaments because these events can be anywhere from hundreds to thousands of people depending on the size of the event. Not to mention, people just wouldn't want to risk it anyway because going to these events could possibly mean that they get sick, and them getting sick means they can affect a family member who's far more susceptible to dying to it, or even them just having long-term complications from it. So it's just not a good idea for people to meet in person. That being said, the only games in terms of esports that have been able to do big events in have either been games like League of Legends that have massive budgets, like millions upon millions of dollars invested into their esport, or games that have really, really, really good online components, like say Fortnite, or really just Fortnite is the only game I can think of that's doing relatively well online. I guess League of Legends isn't doing too bad either, but I can't think of too many games that have like I would compete online levels of internet connectivity. And this is mainly because obviously there's lag, there's latency, and those things are very important. Like split second reactions are very important in almost any game, but no game is that more true than a fighting game in which like things happen in less than like 1/60th of a second. There could be like 2 or 3 frame things that you have to react to, and it's just really, really hard to play fighting games. And that was the case for almost every fighting game, including Smash Bros, up until Project Slippy. Now, most people would think that if you're having an online tournament, you could just play the new Smash Bros. It has online, and you guys could do tournaments like that. And to be fair, for a while they did. However, a lot of the community didn't like promoting those tournaments just because online play was far different than offline play, and there's things you can get away with online that you just can't do offline, and that are impossible to do anything about online due to the lag of the game. Now, people have told Nintendo that this has been a problem. People have hounded on Nintendo multiple times that this is a problem, and then basically to the point where online on their mainstay game, their brand new game, is the point where it's unplayable. But Nintendo just hasn't done anything to fix it. Whether they're negligent to how to fix it, which I don't believe based on information I'm going to go over later in this video, or they just don't want to fix it. But regardless of the case, it just doesn't get fixed. Now, my honest opinion, I'll get into a bit, but if you want my honest opinion, they don't want to fix it. They don't care. As I said in the beginning of the video, they don't care about Smash tournaments. They don't care about Smash community. They don't care about competitive Smash. All they care about is selling their next game. And the more competitive the game is, they feel like, I believe someone does feel like the more competitive the game is, the less people will buy it, which isn't the case, but that's something they've stated multiple times in multiple interviews at E3s and things like that. But as ignorant as that is, like, we're going to move beyond that for right now. The next thing that everyone needs to know is that essentially there is a game called Melee. This game is 20 years old. It came out, I want to say maybe even longer than 20 years old, but I want to say the game, shoot, I was a kid. Maybe it came out in 2000s. It might have, I don't even know. Maybe, I think 2003. It's a really old game. I played this game as like a young kid. I can't even remember how long it's been since I've started playing Melee. I've been playing since 64. But there is an online emulated version of this game, which is legal in the United States. As long as you own the original game, you can get a ROM and use an emulator to play the game. But there's an emulator of this game that allows you to play this game on PC, and a mod for that emulator called Project Slippy. Project Slippy basically is to my basic understanding, this is a kind of a slight oversimplification, but it's basically an online matchmaking and like hosting service. So essentially what it does, due to its code and a thing in its code called rollback, it allows you to play online with other players from across the country, but have the experience feel almost as close to offline as you can get. It does this through an ability called rollback, where to my understanding, the game kind of predicts what it thinks you're going to do. And then if you don't end up doing that, it basically just rolls back the game to like where you actually are to kind of compensate for it. But again, I'm not super techy and understanding how it all works, but the long story short of it is it makes it so the experience of playing the game is very close to playing the game like in person. And some of the best Melee that you could play outside of like being sitting right next to the person you're playing with, which we can't do right now. The reason why this has been so amazing is because Melee has had a large and faithful community supporting Super Smash Bros. Melee for years. To this day, it is arguably one of the greatest fighting games of all time. To this day, in my opinion, it is the best version of Smash Bros. And that's simply because the creators don't want to recreate it. Could Sakurai and the Nintendo team make a better Smash than Melee? Yes, but they don't want to recreate what Melee was, and they've said that multiple times. They've constantly made changes specifically to spite the things that make Melee great, or to go against the things that make Melee a great fighting game, because they don't like what Melee is for whatever reason, despite the fact they created it. So because they refuse to make a better version of it, Melee is the best Smash that exists today. And there's been a long-term community that has supported this game for well over 20 years. I personally have competed in Melee since 2006, 2007. Outside of a bunch of small tournaments I did in my library and game stores, my very first major event was MLG Cross Evo. I want to say this was 06, 07 year, somewhere around that time frame. It wasn't in Evo, it was in MLG, but MLG was doing their very first time in Vegas, so they teamed up with Evo. Only reason I remember the tournament is one, it was my first time seeing that many gamers in one place ever as a child. I was in 7th grade going to 8th grade, and I had to have my dad sign a permission slip so I could compete because I was so young. But I went there with my buddy RCA, who's another big like Smash player, and we did a doubles tournament, we did our singles tournaments. We didn't get super far. We made it out of pools, which I was proud of. We didn't get too far. It was a double elimination bracket, but we didn't get too far outside of pools. But we made it out of pools. For my first time being in any major event, like worldwide or countrywide event, I was super happy just for that, just because there was so much other stuff to take in. But this was like back in 2006 that I went to this event. That people have been playing this game. We're now in 2020, right? Nintendo has never supported these tournaments in any way, like never Melee. They've done stuff for their other things, and they've done like showcase tournaments. Like I know for Smash 4, for the Smash on Wii U, they did a big showcase or, special tournament at E3 and blah, blah, blah. But all of those things have just been marketing pieces. All they've ever done is pour money in the competitive scene when they can use that competitive scene to promote their new game. That's it. They don't support any tournaments outside of that. They don't support any prize pools. In fact, they've actually gone after tournaments multiple times to shut them down for playing Smash Bros. As opposed to promoting them. In fact, that's actually part of why we're here today. This isn't the first time they've done this, But essentially, the big thing that's going on today is the Big House, which is a really big Smash tournament, is basically been sent a cease and desist by Nintendo. The real reason why, they say that like originally they've actually come out and said it, but the reason why is because although they're fine with them having a tournament for Ultimate, which online is straight trash, they don't want them using a tournament online for Project Slippy because they're saying it's because it uses their illegal ROM, which it doesn't. ROMs are legal in the US as long as you own the game, and the onus is on the creator or the studio to prove that the ROMs these people have is illegal, which I'm sure everybody who's playing in the tournament has a legal copy of Melee because they have to practice offline anyway. But I digress, you know what I mean? That's, neither here nor there, not the point. But they're basically saying that they're cease and desisting it because Project Slippy isn't a legal mod, which it is not. It is a mod to an emulator that simply allows people to play online. The emulator itself is legal. The ROM is legal as long as you own a copy of the game in the US. It's just them not wanting to support Melee. And we only know this because this isn't the first time they tried to stop Melee. The first, or one of the biggest, most notable events where they tried something similar to this was EVO 2013, one of the first EVOs I went back to since my participation in EVO 0607 or whatever, the MLG Cross EVO, where Smash Bros. Had raised over $103,000 to a charity. I want to say we did was a breast cancer research. And if they raised that money, the community raised that money to get a spot in the EVO's top 8. And after getting the spot in EVO, approved by EVO's top 8, Nintendo sent EVO a cease and desist to not allow them to play Melee on the main stage. The only reason, they didn't come out and say this, but the only reason why they ended up allowing EVO to do it is because EVO agreed to showcase the next Smash at top 8 basically on EVO's main stage for the following few years. And has worked closer to Nintendo, basically really allowing Melee to stay on main stage as long as the other Smash game that they're trying to promote gets spotlighted and gets showcased as a main game at EVO, which is just ridiculous in and of itself because it basically forces EVO to give 2 slots to Melee. When realistically, it should just be the game that people care about the most, watch the most, and is the most hype. Like the best game should be the one that gets the main stage present because that's the game everybody wants to see. But like I said, I digress. That's like Nintendo being Nintendo. But ultimately, my thoughts on this is stupid. Realistically, the only thing is the Smash community and these tournaments don't have the money to fight Nintendo in court on this. But from the current legal precedent, if they had the money to go to court for it, like they would win the case, like no doubt in my mind. But more importantly, Nintendo's only doing this because they don't want people showcasing like basically a better game. They don't want people trying to run and hunt down and find copies of Melee so they can play Melee online because they don't make money from Melee. They want people playing their new game and trying to play their new game online if they're doing anything with Smash at all. This is 100% not a copyright fight that they're trying to make it seem to be. This is just them trying to focus their money, focus people's attention on their newer products. They want people buying Switches, they want people buying Switch Pros when they come out, and they want people, if they're buying any Smash game, buying their new Smash game that has every character in it and that they can constantly remonetize with DLC, and also to get you to pay for their own paid online service, which isn't as good as Slippy. It's just ridiculous. It's actually like laughable how like ignorant Nintendo is being here. Other games, including like some of Nintendo's competitors like Sega, have just partnered with people in situations like this to improve their own products instead of trying to force people to use newer products that don't work as well. It's a completely backwards way of like thinking. And as stupid as it is, this has been Nintendo for the last 30 years. I have been a huge fan of Nintendo pretty much all my life as a kid, right? Growing up into gaming. But as an adult, as a teenager and adult, and as I began to understand the industry better, I understand that as much as I love some of the products they release, I can't support or fuck with the company simply because they have been one of the most anti-consumer like gaming manufacturers on the planet. along with also being extremely xenophobic and not allowing any outside ideas from their American branch or anything like that. They've been like this with YouTubers. They've been like this with Twitch streamers. They've been like this with review outlets. They've been like this with, like, this is just how Nintendo of Japan operates for whatever reason. And Nintendo of America sending those things out is just a branch of Nintendo of Japan basically saying, hey, we don't want this out there in that way. And like, the simplest thing I say is I hate to see it. It sucks. The goal for all these people, you know, free Melee and Save Smash, is because this game is already 20 years old. It's surprising that the game still has a community that it has today, but the community cannot continue to grow and thrive unless it's able to basically be showcased, for people to showcase the best parts of it, to be able to be a part of the best parts of it, to learn, to practice, to play with other people, and to get to see the best of what the community has to offer. And then honestly, for people to be paid for their work, for people to be able to go out to tournaments and win prize money so they can justify the time that they put into learning the game and getting better at it. These things are all needed for any sport, whether it's an esport or a real sport, to survive. And if you don't have that, then it's going to kill the sport off. And Nintendo is intentionally trying to kill off Smash Bros. Simply because, or not Smash Bros, Melee in particular, simply because it does not make them money anymore. Now, it could make them money. There's a million ways they could. They could re-release Melee on Switch. They could buy Project Dolphin and re-release, or put Dolphin on Switch, put the emulator on their products or on their consoles so that people can play. People have been asking for them to re-release GameCube games for literally over 10 years, since the GameCube essentially died out, because some of the Nintendo's best work was on GameCube, but not as many people bought it due to all the other weird things they did. People have been asking them for years to bridge that gap, and they've just chosen not to. But I mean, ultimately, it's stupid. This is what Nintendo does. I hope that there is a large movement against them to Save Smash and to free Melee. I know a lot of other creators like Ludwig are going on and doing a massive tournament, regardless of what Nintendo tells them that they should or shouldn't do, and are just planning on pushing for it anyway, regardless of threats from Nintendo, and holding basically trying to make a huge statement and make a massive tournament to basically make Nintendo look bad, to try to force them to fall back on this. I don't know if they will. I don't know if anything shy of a court case will make them fall back. And unfortunately, there's no content creator shy of Ninja, who I think has the money to win that court case, right? I think maybe a few other people could, but maybe they could, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But ultimately, in my opinion, this will keep popping up in one way or another until someone takes Nintendo to court over it, or until Nintendo decides to, like you said, decides to change. Whether that's introducing, a Dolphin emulator or something similar onto their own products so people can play these games on Nintendo officially, or working with Project Slippy to improve the rollback code of both, their own game and maybe possibly even Melee down the line. Who knows? But either way, that's going to be it. That's my thoughts on it. Like I said, I don't fuck with Nintendo for this reason. I was a Nintendo kid. My very first game was Super Mario World 2, or Super Mario World. I loved those games as kids. I've owned all of their consoles up to the GameCube. But again, as I grew older and grew wiser, I understood the problems with supporting a company like Nintendo, and I just can't be a part of it. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that it's right for Nintendo to do this? If you do, unsub for me. Nah. But maybe you guys think it's right. Maybe you think it's wrong. Let me know what you guys' thoughts on it below. Are you guys going to check out some of these free Melee events to help support the cause, or whatever else? Let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. But until next time, my name is Shinobazu. I'm your game man, Ninja. I'll catch you guys later, all right? Deuces.